You know, when you set up a home security system, you don't just stick a camera on a shelf and call it a day, right? You plan where the sensors go, you test everything, you actually monitor the feeds, and you keep the software up to date. Well, deploying and managing an intrusion detection and prevention system, an IDPS, is pretty much the same idea, just on a much bigger scale. It's a whole life cycle: implementation, operation, and maintenance.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to follow that full life cycle. We'll start with implementation, getting that foundation solid. Then, we'll jump into the day-to-day operation, which is what your team will be doing constantly. After that, ongoing maintenance, because you got to keep the system sharp. And finally, we'll wrap up with what I think is the most important part: building the skills your team needs to make any of this actually work.
All right, let's dive into Phase 1, implementation. I want you to think of this as laying the concrete foundation for a skyscraper. If you get this part right, everything else is so much easier. But if you have cracks here, they're only going to get bigger and cause major problems down the line.
Now, a great implementation isn't just one big action. It's really a series of 4 deliberate steps. First, you have to design your architecture. Then you test every single component. You follow that with a phased deployment. You don't do it all at once. And last but not least, a step that gets overlooked way too often. You absolutely have to secure the IDPS itself.
Okay, before you even think about plugging anything in, your team needs a solid blueprint. And that blueprint gets built by answering some really critical questions, like these right here. Where are we going to put the sensors to get the best view? How much backup or redundancy do we actually need? What other gear is this thing going to talk to? This planning phase is what really separates a world-class system from just another blinking box on the network.
So when it comes to deployment, you've basically got 2 main flavors. You can go the appliance route, which is kind of like buying a pre-built security camera. It's way simpler and faster to get up and running. Or you can go with a software-based approach. Now this is more of a DIY project. It takes more work, you've got to get the hardware, install the OS, lock it down, but the payoff is you get total control and flexibility.
You have to remember, your security system is a prime target. I mean, if an attacker can shut down your digital watchdog, they've basically got free reign. That's why securing the IDPS itself is totally non-negotiable. We're talking about standard stuff like firewalls, but also enforcing what's called the principle of least privilege, which just means everybody gets the absolute minimum access they need to do their job and nothing more. And, of course, encrypting everything.
So, the system's built, it's secured, now what? Well, now we enter Phase 2, operation. This is the daily watch. This is what your security team is actually doing, day in and day out, to keep an eye on your network.
And where do they do that? Right here, in the console. This is Command Central. It's the screen where your analysts are going to spend most of their time. It's the single place to see alerts, tweak sensors, and really get a feel for the pulse of the network in real time.
And just look at all the things happening in here. The console is so much more than a passive feed of alerts. Your analysts are constantly engaged. They're checking system health, but then they're drilling down deep into an alert to see the raw packet data, the actual traffic that crossed the wire. They're also managing who has access and kicking off the incident response process. It's a super active and dynamic environment.
All right, let's move on to Phase 3, maintenance. Your system is humming along, but the bad guys never sleep. Threats are always changing. This whole phase is about keeping your defenses sharp and ready for whatever's coming next.
A huge part of maintenance is applying updates, but it's really important to know there are 2 different kinds. Software updates are all about the health of the system itself, fixing bugs, making it run better. But signature updates, that's about making it smarter. They teach the IDPS how to spot the newest, latest threats. You gotta have both.
And you can't just push an update and hope for the best. That's a recipe for disaster. I mean, one bad signature could bury your team in false alarms. That's why you need a strict, methodical process. You always verify the update file is legit, you always back up your current settings, you test it somewhere safe that isn't your live network, and only then do you roll it out to production.
We've covered a lot of tech, how to build it, run it, and maintain it. But honestly, the technology is only half the story. Let's talk about the most critical piece of the puzzle: building your team's skills, the human element.
So, what makes a great IDPS team? It's not just one person who knows the product. As you can see from this list, it's a real blend of talents. You need your classic network and system admins, you need people who eat, sleep, and breathe security principles, and you absolutely need experts who know the applications you're protecting inside and out. You might even need some coding skills for custom stuff. It is truly a team sport. But here's the good news. You are not on your own when it comes to getting these skills. There are so many resources out there. You've got formal training courses from the vendor, you've got product manuals, technical support, consulting services, and don't forget about the user communities online. There are tons of ways to build and sharpen the expertise your team needs.
So, if there is one single thing I want you to take away from all of this, it's this quote right here. An IDPS is not some magic box you plug in and forget about. Its true value, its effectiveness, isn't in its feature list. It's in the hands of the people who manage it, the ones who tune it, investigate its alerts, and turn its data into real action.
And that leads us to the final and most crucial question. The technology is just a tool. It gives you a capability. But real security, that comes from mastery. So as you think about your own IDPS, the question isn't just, what can this tool do for me? The real question is my team ready to master it?